And for mayor in this very multi-ethnic city, he was able to get 73 or 74% of the vote. You just don't do that in the city of Miami. Mayor Regalado did, because he really has been a very charismatic, incredibly popular figure. Let's talk just very briefly about gambling, because that's why we're all here. His position has been an extremely reasonable one. Most people are either, I'm for gambling, I'm against gambling. Mayor Regalado's position is, I'm happy to listen, I'm happy to talk, show me your projects. If it's in the best interest of my city, we'll do it. It's been a very reasoned and moderate approach. Without any further introductions or anything else, I'd like to introduce you to the mayor of the city of Miami, Mayor Tomas Regalado.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me. I'd like to commend our good friend, Joe Geller, just recently elected our new state representative. And one person that we're very proud in the city of Miami, Senator Gwen Margolis. She is a City of Miami resident, a Coconut Grove resident, and she does the right thing for Miami and South Florida. Whether she is in the Senate or the House or the County Commission. And this is the kind of city that we have, one of the most diverse city in the United States. A city that was founded right here on this very same place by two women. We are the only city in the U.S. that was founded by two women, Mary Brickell and Julia Tuttle. And it's important to note that when these two women wanted to create a city, so they wanted to go to Henry Flagler and ask him to bring the railroad to the city of Miami, what they hoped was the city of Miami. They needed a city, so they went and looked for people to sign the incorporation. And looking at the residents, they went a little south and they went to the West Grove, and they found a colony of Bahamians, and they asked them to be the incorporators. And it is said that 60% of the incorporators in 1896 were born outside the United States. The last census in 2010 said that in the greater Miami area, 62% of all the residents were born outside the United States. And the important thing is that all this melting pot, all this rainbow of nationalities, of languages and cultures and religions, we all live together. We share the same dream of raising a family, achieving the American dream, trying to do the right thing. And this is why Miami has become one of the most important cities in the U.S., being small and young, but also a global city. And today, in the city of Miami, we have Little Havana, Little Haiti, and we have Little Managua. And now we're having Little Caracas too, here in Brickell. And these are the people that are coming with dreams and hopes, but also with capital to invest. That's why Miami was the only city that was able to come out of the crisis ahead of any cities in New York. I remember that when I took office in 2009, there was an inventory of 20,500 units that were empty in the corridor of Brickell, Biscayne, Albany, Midtown, people that built and try to sell those condos, but then the bubble burst. And people would say, well, it would take 53 months for that inventory to be able to be filled, and it wasn't like that. In less than 24 months, all the units were sold, occupied, and what a difference made when in 2009, when you come to downtown at night, you could see all the buildings that were like black, no lights. And then in early 2011, and there was light. And we have now 20,000 new residents in downtown Miami. We have people that are coming from up north, from New York and North Florida that want to be here. People from the suburbs that have decided that traffic is difficult. By the way, Senator and Representative, I don't know how you can do it, but you should do something about it at the state level because we can. But it's important. And then because people came in, then amenities also came in. And today in downtown, who was a place from 9 to 5 about 10 years ago, today is a 24/7 area. And we have one museum that is open. We have another museum that will be open in less than 10 months. We have the Art Center, which is a great place that it's bringing arts and cultures. And if you move a little north, there is the Miracle of Wynwood. Once a deprived area with warehouses that were abandoned, today we have 114 galleries, and Vogue magazine said that of the 10 hot spots in the world to visit, Wynwood is number 6 after Monte Carlo and Paris. And because of that, we have been able to reach out to the world and invite them to Miami. So next March, we will have the first ever Formula One electric race in the U.S. First it will be Miami and then Long Beach with a new circuit of Formula One that is creating the electric car. So right here, a block from here in downtown, in Biscayne Boulevard, you will see the races that will be televised throughout the world. And we went to Madrid and applied for the circuit, and we were surprised, but we got it. We're up to Monte Carlo and Rome and London and Punta del Este and Long Beach and Miami. These are the amenities that we offer to the residents and to those who want to come into Miami. On the issue of gaming, as you know, the voters of Miami-Dade County several years ago voted to create casinos, and we were lucky because in the city of Miami we have within the municipal boundaries 2 of the 3 that were approved, Magic City and Miami Hialeah, and we had a tremendous good relationship with both places. I remember that as a commissioner, I used to represent the Magic City area, and I remember that about 500 new jobs were created. So we can live together. We are a city that is very diverse. We are a city that it keeps growing. Well, thanks to the problems in Venezuela and Ecuador and Argentina and other countries, this is their natural niche to come and be safe, because when we go to Latin America, people do say that they feel here in the closest Latin American city to the U.S., but with the safeguards of the United States of America. And that's what we offer, and this is what we offer besides the climate, that it's wonderful. So I just want to thank you for coming. I just want to tell you that Miami is a land of opportunity, of people that came after being somebodies in other countries, and they start all over again, and they have achieved the American dream. And it shows that everybody can. It shows that when you work, when you do the right thing, when you go by the book, when you work very hard, you can also be an achiever of the American dream. So again, thank you very much for coming. It's an honor to be here.
At the time. And that's where we increased the bet limits. We revisited some of the regulatory statutes, and we also extended the hours. But most importantly, we reduced the tax on the Class 3 slots in South Florida, which was at the time 50%, and we went down to 35%, which was very significant given that this took place in 2010 and the economy was tanking. And you can imagine that conversation with my colleagues. You know, we're running out of money. What's your idea, Bill? Let's cut taxes on casinos. And but we were able to do it because it made sense, and we were able to establish a floor on it. So the parimutuel community has always been part of the discussion. Many members recognize the contribution that has been made by the parimutuel community for close to since the 1930s, late 20s to 30s, and recognize the job creation and then the partnerships that exist with other industries. For example, the horse industry in the center of the state. So the parimutuel community will continue to be a big part of the discussion going forward. The latest component that has come in, and Mr. Abood has been talking about one aspect of the latest component, is the idea of the resort destination facility coming into the state of Florida. And I'll give you a little bit of history of how I think that door opened. When we were doing the compact, we really didn't have a lot of leverage. In other words, we were negotiating with the tribe, and the tribe already had these banked card games rolled out. So as we were negotiating, it's like selling a car and the guy's driving it already. They were already earning dollars on it. We did not have a lot of support from the administration, the Obama administration. And I was in the House, and at the time, the Senate was rolling out a budget that already had money from the compact in it. So that made it very difficult. The Senate had spent the money, the president was in agreement with the tribe, and I'm trying to negotiate with the tribe over something that they already have. So the idea of leverage brought us to a point where we said, let's look at competition. Because maybe that's what we need to have, and maybe that's what will get the attention of the tribe. I believe you came to the committee, and we opened up a committee hearing and had a presentation by Las Vegas Sands, and that was really our first discussion at the legislative level about the resort destination casinos, which has remained a discussion in the halls of the Capitol ever since. I termed out of the House in 2010, and there was a 2-year hiatus there. During that 2 years, bills were proposed to authorize destination resort facilities. Obviously, neither of them passed, but again, the discussion was there. And then we went into, when I got back in 12, the Senate and the House had both established a committee for gaming. And that's where Spectrum did its reports, and a lot of information was exchanged, but no bill came forward. So here we are. There's not a gaming committee in the Senate. I don't believe there's one in the House, but we have this component to deal with. In the Senate, our new president, Andy Gardner, has made no apology for his anti-gaming position. He has said many, many times that he doesn't like gaming, he doesn't even like the lottery. But he has assured us that this is an issue that we'll look at, and what we come up with will go to the floor and have a fair vote. And I would assume the same is going to take place in the House. The other thing I'll mention about this process, and then I really want to get into Q&A, is that this is not a partisan issue. And make no mistake, if you're lobbying, you should know this already, but you cannot assume by having the majority party that you're going to see a product at the end. You have to have both Republicans and Democrats on this issue, because there is a portion of the Republican caucus that will never support gaming, and there is the same on the other side. So it has to be that balance, and so it is one of those issues where you have to reach across the aisle. The only advice I'll give you before I get hooked off here by Senator Geller is that try to come up with some sort of unified plan. I know it's hard, but I've never dealt with a group of people that cared so much more about what the other guy doesn't get than what they can get themselves. And that's a tough environment to operate in as a legislature, because as a legislator and a legislature. Because eventually you just say, you know what, okay, we heard you all, now we're going to go sit down and figure it out, and then we'll show you what the result is. Anyway, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Bill. Bill has recently been appointed the majority leader for the 2014-2016 Florida Senate. And whatever position, well, we already know the position, but I think it's clear to everybody that Senator Galvano will play a leading role in making policy on gambling for the Florida Senate. Although, Bill, in Q&A, I do want just a flat-out answer. What are we getting? Let me now call on our next speaker. Representative Richardson will give it the view from the House. David was elected in 2012, so he has just been elected to his second term. I believe was the only freshman Democrat on the gaming committee. Is that correct?
I think the first year.
Yeah, and so Representative Richardson has developed a strong interest in gambling. Part of his district is downtown Miami, including Miami Beach also, but certainly as downtown Miami, which is probably where any gambling location would be. Representative Richardson has been attending Nickel-G's and other functions, has developed a very strong interest in gambling, and I expect that with the retirement of our beloved Nickel-G's president, Jim Waldman, that Representative Richardson will be becoming one of the leading Democrats in the House on the gambling issue. Let me introduce you to Representative David Richardson.
Thank you.
You can speak from there or here.
This will be fine. Thank you so much. So I appreciate that. For anyone that wasn't watching the political returns last Tuesday, the Democrats are still in the minority party, in case you missed that, in the state of Florida. So, but I think, as Senator Galvano said, that this issue is really a bipartisan issue, and I think everyone knows that there are a number of members that are in the majority party that are not going to support gaming and don't even like the level that we have now. So that anything that we do is going to take the participation of the minority party as well. So I'll put that out there. As with the Senate, the House will not have a separate committee, a select committee, this coming year. So we expect that any bills will come through the regulatory committees, the subcommittee and the full committee. I would expect, because of that structure, that committee will probably grow a little bit larger. If you remember from last year, the House committee for select gaming had about 22 people on it. It was a pretty big committee, so I expect this regulatory committee to grow a little bit this year. It's probably worth noting that last year in in the last session, the bills that came out after Spectrum did their analysis and their reports for us, the bills that came out from the Senate and the House were different in that the House bill, if you recall, did not include any destination or integrated resort. It was primarily regulatory changes. The Senate bill included that, and of course nothing happened and things fell apart from there. But it's worth noting that. It's also worth noting the political landscape. I think Senator Calvano's mentioned what's going to be going on in the Senate, but in terms of the House, the incoming speaker is Steve Crisafulli, and he is his top priority is water issues. So that's really I think what he wants to make his legacy for his 2-year term as speaker. That's not to say that he won't be interested in this subject, but I think that there will be others on his team that will be primarily driving the car here. In that, I think it's remarkable that Dana Young has been appointed the majority leader in the House. And if you recall, she has a very strong voice to try to retire the Greyhounds. So she's been working on that issue for a number of years. And I know that she was working fiercely last year on that issue, and I expect that it'll be on the top of her list again this year, and she'll have more opportunity to move that initiative forward, given her position as the majority leader. In terms of what I think will happen, we can't really punt it again this year because the compact is going to be up in the summer of 2015. So, I'm not going to sit and guess exactly what's going to happen, but I just want to throw out some of the things that I'm going to be looking at, and that is. I think there are a number of people that feel like if we renew the compact, it has to be on better terms for the state of Florida. There are many people that believe that the state of Florida is not getting enough out of the deal that was made. So I think that that's something that's going to be looked at. I think one of the things that I saw last year that is in terms of transparency. I think we need more transparency. DBPR does not do any direct audits of the revenues on the compact. Those are independent accounting firms that are done that, and DBPR has sent reports. I know I had a number of questions on that, and I spent a few hours with DBPR talking about those issues. So it's one of the things I'm going to be looking at is if there's an opportunity for the state to have more transparency into the details of that. In terms of I'll comment on one of the things that Andy said, because if I heard you right, I think you said that you think that the no people might back off a little bit, but if I understood you right, I'd have to say that I don't think they'll back off.
I don't think they're going to back off. I just think that it's a tired message. I mean,
okay.
I don't think that the facts can meet the rhetoric any longer.
Okay. Yeah, because I expect that they'll be
They'll be well funded.
They'll be well funded, and they'll be talking quite a bit. So I think the other thing that we need to, in addressing this issue, I think the legislature needs to really look at everyone. It's not whether or not destination or integrated. Is that a new word for destination, by the way, integrated, or is that?
Yeah, that's how we view it.
So if we're going to have destination in the state of Florida or integrated, one of my biggest concerns is that if we have an expansion of gaming in the state of Florida, that we don't leave people behind that have been paying taxes for many, many years and are home residents. So we have many companies that have been doing business in the state of Florida and paying their taxes and supporting the state, and I want to make sure that anything that we do is fair for everyone to the extent that it can be. And as the Senator mentioned, I have the great privilege of representing this area, which is one of the reasons that makes this issue so important to me. But I have Miami Beach and downtown Miami. In fact, where we're sitting right now is part of District 113, and just to the west of us, Little Havana. So these are some of the things that I'm going to be looking at. I said a couple of years ago that anything that is in this area, I would like someone to address traffic concerns, density of a project concerns that we would have in this area. And speaking of that, we've had a lot of conversations in our area here about bringing in soccer, and we haven't been able to resolve that issue in terms of where a soccer stadium would be. There's a great interest in having that right here in the middle of the downtown area, and traffic and density are concerns that are raised with that. And I think with any sort of destination or integrated proposal, those questions would be raised as well. And the third point that I've constantly and consistently talked about is parity, in terms of if we expand and have destination or integrated, then how will we make sure that it's equitable to everyone, including, as I said, those people who have been paying taxes here in the state of Florida for many years. So I think it's going to be interesting this year. I think that this is the year something's going to happen, and we'll just have to wait and see where the proposals are. And I look forward to being part of the mix and being part of the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce somebody. I've known Izzy Havnick since he was a teenager. He is third generation in the pari-mutuel industry. I had the great privilege of working closely with his father, Fred Havnick, who had the reputation as being the single nicest guy in the pari-mutuel industry. The Havnick family and the Heck family has had interests literally across the country. I know you in Texas, was it Minnesota or one of the Dakotas? Wisconsin, Texas, Florida. Again, they've had pari-mutuel interests literally all across the country. If those of you that have gone to University of Miami are familiar with the Heck Family Foundation, that's also his family. The Hecks and the Havnicks have been among the leading philanthropists in South Florida. And I always like being on a panel with Izzy, because Izzy is really unique in pari-mutuel world. Izzy, the family owns a Magic City casino in Miami, so they're part of the Dade and Broward group. But they also own Bonita Springs near Naples, which is part of the group that wants additional gambling outside of Dade and Broward. And so Izzy is really unique. When I want the perspective of the entire pari-mutuel industry, I can either check with different lobbyists or just talk to Izzy and listen to Izzy talk to himself and disagree with himself. So let me introduce somebody who really is all carried on the family tradition of being nice. Izzy Havnick.
Thank you very much. There have been 3 panels before us about what the pari-mutuels need and want in Florida. So I'll be brief and wait for questions and answers. But obviously, the pari-mutuels started the entire gambling conversation by passing the constitutional amendment in 2004. And all we're asking is to be treated and given a seat at the table in any negotiations that go forward. We would like, obviously, as you heard this morning, tax reduction. We would like parity in games. We would like gray market and illegal gambling to actually be put out of business and not allowed to flourish in South Florida. I believe there are more illegal slot machines in Dade County than there are actual legal slot machines. We're very concerned about decoupling, which came up earlier. If and when Grade 2K and other animal rights groups make dog racing and other forms of pari-mutuel activities illegal in Florida, what will happen to the other aspects of our business? Do we have to stop with the poker? Do we have to stop with slot machines? So that's a huge issue. And we heard this morning that referendums have popped up all over the state. And the biggest argument we've heard is that the state doesn't want expanded gambling in other places. But if you have a community, for example, Lee County, where we passed a referendum at 68% of the community wanting us to be able to expand the products we offer, why are the voters being ignored? when it is a mandate of the people. And lastly, since I did promise brevity, unlike the Wall Street guys who said, Florida's not great and whatever, we do believe in Florida, which is why our family just purchased 25% of Dania Highline as the new managers of the facility. It will reopen at the end of next year, hopefully, and be a great facility. Hopefully not giving too much competition to some of our friends in Broward, but working well with them to grow the market.
Thank you, Izzy. Before I take questions, we have previously introduced all of the legislators in the room. We were joined at lunchtime by a newly elected legislator, actually one of my law partners, and actually even more coincidental, guy's like a brother to me, newly elected State Representative Joe Geller, my brother. We're happy to take any questions now. While the mic is being passed around the room, I'll throw out an initial question. What happens if nothing happens this year in terms of gambling? Do you believe that you would have, the governor would just say, we'll continue status quo for one more year, the Seminoles will pay money into a escrow or trust, or what do you think happens if we don't pass anything this year in terms of the compact?
Well, or is it simply a resolution that we put forward? In any event, for the compact provision requiring the cessation of cards within 90 days after the end of the term not to come into play, some act should take place. Now that...
And if no act takes place, do y'all have any prediction, Bill, particularly as to...
If we do nothing, then like I said, we run the risk of losing $235 million a year, and then it becomes a question of enforcement. And while there is an agreement to submit federal court jurisdiction and a recognition that injunctive relief is appropriate, I would anticipate that would be a bit of a battle. The tribe doesn't go down easy.
No. Anyone else want to comment?
No, I totally agree with what Bill said. So I would just add to one point, to the point that people have said to me over the last few years as I'm learning all of this and everything, if you don't renew the compact, you're going to lose $250 million a year. And my answer is, well, if we don't have the compact and we have integrated or destination, the state will get that money, but recognizing that there will be a lag factor in terms of how long it would take to build a structure and get cash flow running from that. So, but I agree that some affirmative action has to be taken.
Many of these conferences that I attend, we get a 10-minute break. At this one, you actually get a 30-minute break, so you can actually network. Everybody here are business people. You're here for business reasons. So we will reconvene at 3 o'clock. That gives you 28 minutes. Please, we will be reconvening at 3 o'clock sharp for our final function of the day. And I'd like to thank our very distinguished panel.
¿Qué significado tiene esta importante conferencia que estamos desarrollando hoy?
Esta conferencia es sobre el tema de casinos. Ahora tenemos más preguntas que respuestas, pero yo creo que en 2015 tendré más respuestas que tenemos ahora.
El sur de la Florida es un lugar propicio, es un lugar importante para seguir desarrollando casinos.
Yo creo que es importante, pero es muy difícil. Es difícil porque hay personas que
no quieren.
Hay personas que quieren y también hay otras personas que no quieren. Y tenemos businesses.
Empresas.
Tenemos negocios que ganan si tenemos casinos, pero también tenemos negocios
Que
que
pierden.
no ganan si tenemos casinos. Esta es la razón que yo dice, ahora tenemos más preguntas
¿Qué respuesta?
que respuestas.
Mucha gente
Sí.
tiene temor, miedo al delito, a la corrupción, a la droga, a...
Yo entiendo, pero yo disagree. Yo fui el chair de un estudio nacional que se nombra National Public Sector Gaming Study Commission. Yo fui el jefe de este estudio. Y el estudio descubrió que no hay más crimen. Es más crimen, pero solamente porque están más personas. Si tenemos el Super Bowl, es más crimen porque hay más personas. Y es idéntico con casinos. The rate, I don't know how to say rate.
Proporción.
El proporción para cada persona no es higher,
No es más,
pero
es igual.
cuando tenemos más personas,
Okay.
hay more crimen. So, yo, I don't agree. El problema es que los paramutuals, ellos dicen que si hay casinos y ellos no recibir más que ellos tienen ahora, ellos will fail.
Sí,
Se van abajo.
se van abajo.
Yeah.
Última. Miami
Sí.
tenía un proyecto con los chinos de levantar un casino en Miami, en pleno centro de Miami, downtown.
Siguiente.
Y
Yo creo que...
fracasó.
Okay.
¿Hay posibilidades?
Sí, pero solamente es posible. Yo creo que si tenemos casinos en Miami Dade, solamente hay uno o dos, no más de dos. Y es posible solamente uno. Pero este es la provincia de la legislature. Y no estoy seguro que el futuro
Legislatura.
tiene.
En un próximo consulta popular,
Ajá.
¿puede cambiar la opinión del ciudadano?
Sí, el problema es no solamente es que personas piensen en Miami-Dade, es que los legisladores de todo de Florida piensen. Y yo creo que en Miami y Broward hay más support para casinos de entre Panama City.
Ok. 2020, 2030, Antes-
No 30. I mean, yo creo que hace, no más de 4 años.
ok. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Gracias.
Soy el nuevo representante del
Estatal.
distrito 100 en el norte del condado de Miami-Dade y el sur del condado de Broward.
Felicitaciones.
Gracias.
¿Qué comprenden ciudades? Sunny Isles, Aventura, Hallandale,
Sí, todo hay Surfside,
Surfside,
Bay Harbor Islands,
Ajá.
Bal Harbor, partes de porciones de North Miami,
Ajá.
North Miami Beach, todo de Aventura, Sunny Isles, Golden Beach y la este de Hallandale, Hollywood y Dania Beach.
Oh, ¿se viene un proceso de explosión positiva en la construcción residencial en Hallandale, Hollywood?
También en Sunny Isles.
Sonny Isles más todavía.
Sí. Pienso que sí, pero hay muchos proyectos y pienso que proyectos.
Sí.
Pienso que algunos proyectos están bien, pero algunos no. Depende.
Sonny Isles solo 200 metros del mar,
Sí.
después no más.
Pero en el oeste de Collins hay mucho interés, interés en el oeste de Collins.
Para Biscayne.
No, el oeste de Collins Avenue.
Sí.
Sí, la bahía,
Hay
sí.
mucho interés
Intracoastal.
en más, sí, en el intracoastal. Sí.
Ajá.
Sí. Todo
Debemos
eso.
aprobar la instalación de más casinos en Miami.
Depende. Si es una buena idea por la economía de Florida, sí. Tiene un impacto bien por la economía y la fiscal. No es claro ahora. Depende de las particulares de los planes. Y es una buena idea, sí, pero depende.
Depende, ¿de qué dependería? Primero de la aprobación del ciudadano. ¿Y después de qué? ¿De los inversores? ¿De los permisos? ¿De qué depende que haya casinos en Miami?
Los impuestos, el impacto del público, la locación, el impacto de los parimutueles, depende de muchos factores y necesito ver las planas en muy detalles del impacto en la economía.
El turismo es fundamental como impacto económico. El turismo.
Sí, el turismo es un gran factor. Es muy importante el impacto del turismo. Es importante que los casinos dependen de las turistas, no totalmente en las residentes del Florida Sur.
Las consecuencias que deja el juego en lo negativo, ¿se puede compensar con el impacto positivo de la economía?
Es difícil para conocer a este momento. Depende de la legislación que introducir en la legislatura. No, que dice que los detalles es más significante. Depende de los detalles. Y yo necesito ver todos los detalles antes de decidió que mi vota en esta plana.
Bien. Ok. Bueno, mucha suerte.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you.
Y buena suerte a usted y también a sus
Televidentes.
la público.
Televidentes.
Televidentes, sí.
Yeah,
Gracias.
ok.